Hi, I'm Alan. My normal co-host, Dennis Sharon, is taking some time off enjoying a sabbatical from work. His sabbatical is part of a program we've developed at our firm to give our leaders a chance to disconnect, refresh, and come back invigorated. Since Dennis is out, we're going to rotate with some guest interviewers.
This is Diane Anderson filling in as a guest host, and today Alan and I are talking to John and Heidi Bellerjeau. This husband and wife duo are true entrepreneurs who have spent time in corporate America, owning their own business and now helping others through their own consulting companies.
Welcome to Playing Above the Line. We're a podcast that takes a peek into the daily lives of community and business leaders. Each week, we uncover different views of the path to growth, leadership, and achieving success. I'm Dennis Sharon.
And I'm Alan Cave. Dennis and I are both shareholders at Hartman, Blackman & Kilgore. We're a full-service accounting and business consulting firm. As CPAs, we've had the unique opportunity to work with many different leaders and decided we wanted a way to share their incredible stories that we've learned along the way. Diane, it is a fabulous day at the Container Yard and Deep Fried Studios. How are you?
Yes, it is. Alan, thank you so much for having me as a guest host.
I know, this is going to be fun. Now, look, Diane, you've been full of firsts. I mean, the first time we had mimosas, you were with us a couple of weeks ago. So today we'll have our first husband and wife guest.
And so exciting. And the more exciting part is I've known both of these two incredible people for many decades. So I'm excited that they're on our podcast.
Very good. So today we have John and Heidi Bellerjeau. They're the owners of Business Coaching Academies. John, welcome to the studio. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
And Heidi, welcome to you as well.
Thank you so much.
So, John, I'll start with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're doing right now, and your story.
Well, I am a work in progress. I will say that for sure.
And I will second that.
Heidi didn't take her long to jump in there. So
No, but that's part of being married. You know, if I learn my place, I'm better off, right?
Very good.
Well, I would just say in general, I'm an entrepreneur. And you know what? I didn't know that. I was told as a kid, because I made good grades in school, I better go to medical school, because that's what all kids that made good grades were supposed to do, become a doctor, grow up and be a doctor. That was back in the 70s and 80s. Well, I did that. I became a dentist, and I did that for now 30 years. But along the journey, I've been loving business, learned a lot about business along the way, and I could tell you that my eyes opened up to there's a whole lot more in the world than just being in dentistry. So, in fact, recently, and right at the time we're shooting this podcast, I am launching a business coaching academy. Okay. And it's a lot of exciting times, but talk about a list of things to do when you start a new business.
Yes.
Crazy.
No doubt. Heidi, what about you?
Yeah, I am also an entrepreneur, and I would like to take credit for John seeing the light beyond dentistry. And yes, I'm sorry. As he used to say, he was drilling, billing, and filling. So
that sums it up.
About right.
It does.
And I actually began a business 10 years ago, an e-commerce business, and this was as Instagram and Facebook and all those fun things were taking off. And I learned a ton about marketing and running a business, and that's truly what got John fired up about residual income. And
I think what you're really trying to say is I'm the serious and you're the fun.
I am.
Yes, and that's what's happening here.
So you're the gas, he's the brake. Is that the way it goes?
Yes,
okay.
As a matter of fact. But there is no governor on this gas. So
I'm just going to stay in my lane.
There you go.
Smartest thing, yeah. So I do have to ask one quick question. Bellerjeau is your last name.
Yes.
Interesting last name. So
yes,
what's the origin of that, or can you expand on that?
Well, I will tell you, it was such an original name, at least for Heidi, that she wasn't sure she was going to even keep it for her first 5 or 6 years that we were married.
Yes.
I would still introduce her as Heidi Hopkins. And then finally she said it's okay to use Bellerjeau.
I think it's going to stick.
But I tell you what, I was given a gift about 25 years ago because as I grew up, my father was always having to pronounce our name and spell it. And if anybody has had a difficult name to deal with online, on the phone, what's that name? Well, B as in boy, E-L-L, going through the spelling of it.
It is awesome, though, for those marketing phone calls.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes, that's true.
When someone calls and they can't pronounce your last name, it's an immediate hang up.
He's not here.
Right.
Well, the problem, though, is that, you see it. It's simple once you hear it, but it's confusing at first. Well, I went to an event. It was actually a canoe trip. I was meeting a whole lot of new individuals. on this canoe trip, and I went into a group of 3 or 4 people to meet them, and I said, "Hey, I'm John Bellerjeau." And this one lady there said, "Wow, that's confusing." And I said, "I'm not sure. What do you mean?" And she said, "Well, which one do you go by?" And I said, "Excuse me?" And the other gentleman that was with us said, "No, do you get it? John, Bill, or Joe?" And I said,
"Oh, wow.
Well, that is a little confusing."
And I promptly said, "Please tell me you didn't ask her out."
Yes, I would have to say this was before we got married. And so I have actually used that with all my patients because it's been just a great way to explain
And now your
my name.
website.
And now my website, which is because doing online, the first thing with marketing, I realized who's going to be able to spell, johnbellerjeau.com. So the website is johnbillorjoe.com.
That is fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you, John, for I did not know that story. And like I said, I've known you for a long time, and there's probably a lot of things that it's interesting when you know people for a long time, just certain aspects about them and their life. And whenever I was reading the bios, I just realized there's so many other areas about both of y'all that I had no idea about. So I would love to kind of hear just the evolution from John, from you, from dentistry to your first, when you first realized that, Heidi was right. And then Heidi, obviously, kind of going back, you started out in the corporate world.
I did.
And so I would love to hear how that kind of evolved, obviously, into you owning your own business. So,
Absolutely.
How many people can't say that their life is just an assembly of a bunch of little stories that affect them? Right? And so I can tell you that I still have a fond memory of being in practice in my dental world, just getting the practice started, probably about a year in, and I took Friday afternoon and I went to play golf with 2 of my friends. Well, one of them was an insurance salesman and the other one was a mortgage financial advisor. And so we're playing the round, and as any guys that love to play golf with their buddies know, there's not a lot of seriousness with that round of golf. There's a lot of ribbing going on. And all right, so after a bad hit that I made, the only bad hit I would like to say, but not, of the round, the joking started, and the other 2 guys both joked that, well, they may be playing a bad round of golf, but at least they're getting paid while they're out there. And that moment stuck with me because I realized even though I loved being a dentist, I had to be there having the operation working in order to make a living. And
to keep the revenue coming.
Right.
Sure.
And that was just such a direct disconnect with my life's goals, which was to free up time at some point.
To be on the golf course.
Yeah, at that time to be on the. I was the kid in college who had the Walkman headphones on walking to class saying, "Who made up the rule that we have to go to work for 5 days and be off 2? I think it would be cool." Okay, put it in the mind of a college kid. Well, it would be cool. We should make a rule that you go to work for 2 and are off 5. Makes more sense to me. So that was my frame of reference. But when I realized, okay, there's another way to do life and living and earning an income, that sent me off on a crazy journey that's gotten me where I am now.
Yes, and that's where I can step in. So my previous life, I always say BC before cheerin', was in the corporate world. I worked for Estee Lauder out of New York as the director of field training and development. So super, super fun. Tons of travel, though. So when John and I got married, I still commuted back and forth to New York for a couple of years, but quickly realized that long distance relationships aren't all they're cracked up to be. So I said goodbye to that glamorous world and decided to be at home, and we started our family very soon after. We were late breeders, so we were well into our 30s at that point. And I thought, okay, well, this will be fun. I'll be a stay-at-home mom. Any stay-at-home mamas out there, Dora the Explorer and Caillou about put me over the edge. And I needed some brain stimulation and community beyond. So I started looking into something I could do from home. And back then, there wasn't a whole lot that could be done from home. So I started working online for Estee Lauder. I was, believe it or not, when you chat with people online, there is someone sitting there. They may be in their pajamas with a child screaming at their feet. They're probably working remotely from home. I can tell you firsthand. And I did that for a few years, and I loved it. Little mad money. But then from there, I decided I needed more than just a paycheck. I was used to making my own money and used to having, that income.
That independence. Financial independence,
absolutely. Right. And I longed for it again. So I started an online business. It quickly grew, so I was able to mentor and train, which was my passion, but still work wherever I had an internet connection, which was truly what I'd been looking for. So that it was also the introduction for us to residual income, where John would come home and say, I saw the deposit, crazy, when are you doing this? I'm like, well, we're leading a team, and residual income is pretty fun.
Yeah, it's almost the magic words for us, which, is hard to fully grasp until you get to live it or experience it, whether it's in any kind of passive income. If it's, if you get to a point with real estate or
insurance.
Well, the thing is, everybody in my age group, everybody thought that the path of life was work hard, put away a little bit of money, end up
at the age of 62. Then you can sit back and enjoy it.
You retire,
right.
And I'm putting that in quotes because then what has now become retirement is not what it used to be because people are living longer. Still want to be active mentally and involved with something. And the reality is, what is investing for retirement? It's just putting away money to invest so you have passive income. Well, now there's more opportunities to find different businesses that are realizing, let's just create passive income somewhere in our business model. And so you don't have to wait till retirement. You can start living a better retirement kind of life, style of life, earlier. And so that's what I love that her business brought to us is by, the age of 50, I was living more of a, quote, retired life, getting to not worry about where they were going on vacation without me,
because we did.
Sure you did.
She
absolutely.
And when I got the postcard saying having fun, wish you were here.
T-shirt coming.
I knew that, I was glad there was another way.
Absolutely. And so at what point in time did you join forces in this career?
I would say a couple. I fully backed her and supported her because she came to me. She's explained what it was, and I said that sounds like it's perfectly in your lane. Let's go do it. Have fun. The only trepidation I had with that was we were about to launch a whole nother business. So we were thinking entrepreneurially, and I was ready to launch. We already had the formation of this business, and she said, but I really think I need to go this direction.
And I'll tell you why I thought that.
Well, I know.
It was a water bottle with a carbon filter, so very cool for camping and that sort of thing. I do lipstick, mascara. I don't do carbon filters. So when I was to be the marketing director for this water bottle and the other opportunity presented itself, it was an easy decision.
She ran to the lipstick.
Well, I can't imagine Heidi having a tough time telling someone that carbon water bottle looks really great on them.
Yeah.
I struggled. It was a pretty blue.
But you could do it, I think. I think you could.
But I think that brings up a broader point in that it's okay to think that you want to do something like this, but you've got to believe in the product that you're selling, number one, and have a passion for it, number two, I would think.
Absolutely.
You could probably be successful maybe if you were just kind of half-heartedly doing it, but I don't think you could be as successful as you have been.
It's a fantastic point because I think people are drawn to authenticity.
Right.
And if you're genuine and passionate about what you're doing, that is always going to transfer.
It comes across.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Well, and I would say, too, that one of the biggest things we've experienced, which I think has been fantastic with her business, is I was used to leading a group of 18 to 20 people in my dental office, and by getting involved with her business, we got to see what it's like to work with literally hundreds of people. And so that's really changed and evolved our whole process for learning about leadership, and what our thoughts on leadership are now are not what they were 20 years ago.
And another thing that has kind of transformed y'all's business is social media.
Wow.
So let's talk a little bit about how y'all are utilizing social media to promote your business and to stay connected.
Cannot say enough about social media. I mean, it's free advertising. But it has to be done right. And it is changing. It used to be just Facebook, and now we've got Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, LinkedIn. The list goes on. And you've got to be a student of it and stay on top of it. But literally, you might think you know 20 people when you have access to billions of people through social media. And it's just knowing how to authentically reach out, connect to those people, find a common connection, build a relationship with them rather than just marketing. So once you realize the power of social media and how to work it well and how, the different avenues of it, it can be an amazing tool to grow a business.
I mean, if you think back about marketing in the past, it was hire a big-name celebrity to endorse your product so that people felt like, oh, I like that person.
Right.
I know, like, trust him, or think I know, like, and trust him because I saw him in a movie or whatever. And so I will try their products because he's endorsing it. Well, social media brings that opportunity all the way down to really
an influencer.
A micro-influencer is the new term that we call it. And it just gives you a chance to what Heidi is, for example, with her business. She's not focusing on marketing her business. She's really more centrally focused on marketing. This is who I am. This is what I believe in. This is what I think is fun about the world. This is why I think cosmetics are fun and fantastic. And I've been doing this for a long time. Let me teach and train you. I want to share this with you. And with that, then they trust. And from that, then they may become a customer or they may become a partner with her in business. And so I love that it's brought all of that marketing down to really the grassroots. The power is in the people, with the people now.
Right.
Yeah, and we hear about building a personal brand, which is what you're talking about. And even in our industry, you think boring old CPAs. Well, but with the advent of the internet and social media, it is important to build your personal brand, to let people know that your expertise is in XYZ, so you'll become the go-to person, theoretically, in whatever that might be. So that's very interesting. I want to circle back, John, to something you said, because this is we try to have an overarching theme of leadership with the podcast. And so you said that your view and kind of thoughts on leadership have changed over the past 20 years. So compare and contrast that. What did you think a leader was 20 years ago? And what do you think it is today?
Well, I grew up with a dad who was in the military.
Okay, so that shapes your view, obviously.
So I realized that's...
And I think you could put a period after that.
Yeah. End of initial discussion. So when I started my practice, I guess what I would say is that when I look back on it, I didn't realize it at the time, but when I look back on it, I felt like I had to have all the answers. First of all, when someone came to me.
Right.
I needed to be the authoritative, know everything, not know it all, but know everything individual so that I was the resource for them. And
to say that you didn't know something was almost like a failure or
a weakness.
A weakness, right.
It really did. But I would say in a summary of what's happened over the 20 years is I realized leadership's really been a process for me. A process of learning, and I'm really becoming more aware now that when I show my vulnerability, I'm actually becoming a better leader. And my relationships with the folks at the dental office, my relationships with the folks that I work with as clients, with coaching or business advice or what have you, it's really enjoyable when I don't have to have this wall of authoritativeness in front of me, and we can have really good dialogue. But if we can have dialogue that's just brutally honest and transparent, it makes for such a better life, really.
And I think it takes the pressure off of a leader
or
off of a manager that you have to have the answers. And to simply ask. One thing I love that John does, and this comes through in the coaching, is when someone asks him something or asks him for advice, he comes back with a question. There are lots of questions. Drives me crazy as his wife. However, it's, again, it goes back to that dialogue and just being real and surrounding yourself with people that think like you do, yet don't think like you do.
Interesting that you say that, because I was not aware that you thought that way about me. So I'm going to watch my questions
there
a
we
little bit
go.
more.
It's amazing what a podcast brings out.
Self-discovery right here.
Is there a fee for the marriage counseling that you guys are providing?
Just the mimosas.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, what I was thinking is that, when you think about some of the quote sales techniques that have been taught for years, it's ask questions. Lately, it had become get to know your client, ask questions, and build a relationship there. And I've realized with coaching, it's not a technique to try and get to win them over to my side of belief. It truly is, I'm curious.
And it's probably very educational for you. Probably every day you learn something new.
Every day. If I stay in curiosity, then I am a better leader, because the curiosity helps me to fully understand their point of view. It helps me to drive the conversation and communicate, because I guess I would say I'm a little bit of a nerd about communication too. I took one communication class in undergraduate school, interpersonal communication, and I've been fixated on communication ever since. But the crazy thing is just allowing the vulnerability and the curiosity in my leadership has really opened up the communication. It's just evolved. I didn't have to think about it. It just happened.
Well, talking about business coaching, why don't you expand a little bit more on that new endeavor that you have jumped into?
Business coaching, as a name and a science or whatever, has been around for a while. But I will tell you that I really felt led and called to go into coaching because I was at a point in my practice where I suffered an eye injury, and I was having to back down my hours of my practice, and I was trying to figure out what can I do with all of this stuff that I've learned over the years. And so I really thought that being some type of a consultant or advisor made sense. And I was given information about a brand new company in the U.S. Well, it's not a brand new company. Yeah, I guess you'd say it's a brand new company. It's a new division.
Yeah, subsidiary.
Gary Keller from Keller Williams, so KW Real Estate, has always had a real estate for the last 20 years. They've had a real estate coaching agency that aligns right with their agents. So if you're in KW as a real estate agent, you can grow your business. And if you need help growing your business, you can hire their real estate coaches. Now, what he learned is that not only real estate agents need the same kind of advice and coaching and that dynamic of having somebody in the front line of your business with you to help you make decisions. So just this year, he's launched MAPS Business Coaching. And what I love about that is they do the certification. That's the program that I went through to help refine my skills as a business coach. And I can also help guide people into that program as well. So they're not just hanging a shingle, they're actually learning and assimilating all their skill sets to how can I be effective professionally to help someone break through the things that are hindering them in their business, help them get some clarity on what their goals are. You know, a lot of businesses are out here and they actually don't even have written goals. And if you don't have a written goal, you sure aren't going to hit the target because you don't know what the target is. And it's hard. I mean, I say that laughingly, but sometimes it is hard because when you're working your business, you've got fires to put out every day. You've got people coming at you. Essentially, it's like you just joined the circus and become a juggler. Right?
I'm picturing all the Post-it notes on the computer screen. And
a really bad juggler?
Oh, I should have had stock in Post-it notes years ago. Who that owns a business doesn't wish they owned some stock in 3M when Post-it notes came out? So what I love is that what we can do is we can bring clarity to their goals. We help them define their own goals. They're defining the goals. We're just helping show them how to define them, and then we're showing them that their one thing that they need to do is figure out what's the most important thing they should do right now so that everything else becomes either easier or unnecessary for them to do so they continue to move forward towards their target. You don't just do that once. You knock out one project and then you have to go to the next.
I think I need to sign up.
I'm telling you, I think John could make that happen.
Because you talked about having a plan. So, I mean, what would you like to see Breakthrough Business Coaching Academy look like in 3 years or so?
Well, one of the other things that I love about our coaching is that I'm allowed to bring my faith into it. So one of the things that I am very strongly believing right now is that a lot of times, and I don't know if you guys like to get into discussions on religion here, I'm a Christ follower. And I don't know that a lot of people are going to find Christ by going to church. Church is there for people to learn about our faith. But I really believe that a lot of people over the next several years are going to learn more about the love of Christ through the business world.
Well, it's kind of interesting. I think that just like in business or in school, people learn differently and in different ways. And I would say the same thing holds true also.
That's a good point.
So.
Well, there's a saying I've heard recently that I believe in, and that is that in business, the person that's going to win is the person that loves their client more. So whoever can show more love, and whoever as a client feels more love, that's who they're going to stay loyal to. So with that, our faith is all about love. It's showing love. So my hope is that our business helps to show people what love is in the business world.
Well, in this environment, it really kind of is. Everything you see on the news, I mean, that's counterintuitive to what always seems to go on. But I think that's a great approach for sure.
With love, we'll see where it grows. I really think along with creating that love and teaching how to grow your business, our other mission is to help coaches learn how to have a good coaching business that's a successful way to make a living. And there's so many folks that are getting a little burned out mid-career. It's not really a midlife crisis like we think of, but it's kind of a mid-career crisis because maybe they've been working so hard and they're getting a little burned out, but they're in
just time for a change.
It's time for a change. It's time for a pivot to whichever direction. Like we said before, a lot of us will want to work until we're in the grave.
As long as we can.
As long as we can. As long as it's enjoyable.
Right.
And so pivoting into business coaching, I found is a great way for people to use what they know already about their businesses and then start to share it with the young bucks out there that are trying to come after us.
Yeah, that's great. Well, Heidi, I'll give you kind of the last word, and you can either answer that same question or know that you kind of have a different passion, not necessarily business coaching, but you've got your own business. So what are your plans for the next 5 years or so?
So I am John's biggest frustration in that I do not enjoy goal setting at all. In fact, yes.
So that should be your first client right there.
Yes. Well, during his certification, I was I role played quite a bit for some of his assignments, and the budget planning and accountability were my least favorite. So, but I do understand the importance of goal setting, and I do understand I'm very much like John in that I love learning. In fact, we homeschool our children because one of my favorite things is taking online classes with them. I've always loved to learn. I've always loved to challenge my beliefs, think outside the box. And I'm a huge believer in obviously being an entrepreneur and owning online businesses. And I believe that you should have more than one stream of income. Mm-hmm. So as the business that I've led for the past 10 years continues to grow and expand, I'm always looking for other businesses to jump into. So I'm also pivoting right now and moving more into the blogging space because that's a big piece of social media and people connecting with you and getting to know you. And that's opening up some beautiful affiliations with companies. So we shall see where that leads. I love speaking, as our children are 13 and 14, and I don't celebrate Teacher Appreciation Week like I should.
You should.
Yes, I should. I do see, and 5 years down the road, as they've left the nest, that I'll be traveling and speaking and truly probably be a coach with Breakthrough Business Academy.
So, John, the name of your new business is the Breakthrough Business Coaching Academy. Do you have a website?
Yes, it is johnbillorjoe.com.
Okay, so the story that we just heard about, the last name, I got it. Very good. And so you can go there to learn more, but we'll also put links in the show notes. John and Heidi, this has been exciting. I mean, it's very fun. Thank you for
y'all
coming
so
to join
much.
us. This has been great.
You guys are awesome hosts, and you have done a fantastic job as a guest host.
Thank you so much, John. I appreciate it.
You can find links to John's Breakthrough Business Academy and Heidi's purposeful websites in the show notes.
Well, thanks for listening to our podcast today. To never miss an episode, subscribe to Playing Above the Line at iTunes and anywhere else you get your podcast. And be sure to leave us a rating. We'd love to know what you think about our show.
To contact us or to stay connected, follow us on social media at HBKCPAS on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Thanks for listening.